Hello, first graders. It's me, Miss Nolte. Today, we're going to be talking about words that end with ed and words that end with ing. And you've been doing this a lot with your reading in this unit. And right now, the only thing you've been focusing on is that if a word has ed, we know that means it happened in the past. And if a word has ing, we know that means the word is happening right now. And we've been talking about that a lot. Even when we were still in school, we knew that ed meant something happened in the past and ing meant something is happening now. But now we're going to start seeing some spelling changes in the words that we're using before we get to add ed or ing. Okay, so they're going to be trying to trick you and spell these words incorrectly, but you have to be smart, use that smart brain, and catch them and make sure that you spell these words correctly, because now they're going to be focusing on words where you have to change something before you can add ed or ing. Now, we did this a little bit when we did plural words. We talked about changing y to I, and we talked about dropping the silent e. So this is kind of the same. So if you remember when we did that, then that'll be good to help you with this. If you don't remember when we did that, that's okay, because we're going to go over it again now. So the first spelling change that you might have to make to a word is you might have to double the consonant at the end, okay? So when you're deciding if you need to make a spelling change before you add ed or ing, the best thing to do is to look at the end of the word, okay? So if I look at the ends of this word, grab. Grab ends with A, which is a vowel, and B, which is a consonant. When a word ends with a vowel and a consonant together like this, you have to double whatever that consonant is before you add the ending. So grab, if I wanted to say I did that right now, I would be grabbing with that double B, okay? Because this ends with a vowel and a consonant. Look at the word drop. If I look at the last two letters in the word drop, drop has O, which is a vowel, and P, which is a consonant. So that means if it's a vowel and a consonant at the end, I'm going to have to double this P before I add ing or ed. So this time we'll do ed. We'll say I did it in the past, and I accidentally dropped my paper. I've got that double P in the middle now. Sit. If I look at the last two letters of sit, I is a vowel, T is a consonant. So it has the same pattern as both of these, which means I'm going to need to double the consonant before I add the ending. Sitting. It's got that double T in the middle. Okay? Not all words are like this. If I look up here at the word push and I look at the last two letters of push, push has S, which is consonant, and H, which is a consonant. That means I don't have to double anything. I could just add the ending for whichever one I want. So push just becomes pushing. There's no spelling change. Most of our words so far have been like this, but now they're going to start putting words in like this, where you have a vowel and a consonant at the end, and you have to double that. So what I would do is on my paper, over on the side, I would write my vowels, A, E, I, O, and U, just like that really quick. That way I know what letters I'm looking for. Because if a word has a vowel and a consonant at the end, like grab, drop, and sit, you have to double before you add ed or ing. Now, when you do your reading workbook page, they've mixed all the words up. So they're not all going to be one rule. Like they're not all going to be doubling. They're not all going to be rule number 2. They're not all going to be rule number 3. So you're going to have to know all 3 rules and look at them to figure out if you have to double or drop silent E or change the Y to an I. Okay? So all of these are words where you have to double consonant because they have a vowel and a consonant at the end. So before you add the ending, you have to double the last letter. Okay? The second change that you might have to make to a word is you might have to drop the silent E before you add the ending. So what I would do is any word that you have a silent E, just go ahead and cross that silent E off because you drop it before you add ED or ING. So, right, I take off that silent E and it's going to become writing. Okay, smile has a silent E. I'm going to cross that off. And it's going to become, we'll do ED for this one, smiled. Now that's because if I didn't cross this silent E off and I just added ED at the end, I would end up with this word, which looks really funny and it does not look like the word smiled. Okay, so that's why we cross that silent E off, because we don't need two E's next to each other like that, because that makes a totally different sound. It doesn't make the ED sound that we want. Another one is raise. Raise has a silent E at the end, so we're going to cross off that silent E and then add whichever ending we need to make the word raised. Okay, so anytime you see a word with a silent E, you have to cross off the silent E before you can add an ending. Okay, that one's easy. Number 3 is where it gets a little bit tricky. Okay, so for number three is change the Y to an I. And we've talked about this before, and I saw some of you trying to do it, but you have to be really careful because you only change the Y to an I if you're adding ED. If you're adding ING, you don't change it, because then just like this silent E rule where you end up with two E's next to each other, if you change the Y to an I, you'd end up with two I's next to each other when you added ING at the end, which looks really, really silly and it's not correct. So for this rule, you're only going to use it if you're adding ED at the end. So for example, I've got the word dry here. I'm going to cross off this Y, change him to an I, and then I can add ED at the end. Dried, like I dried my hands off after I washed them. Try is the same thing. Cross that Y off, change it to an I, and add ED to make tried. Okay, so you could be watching out for these Y words too. You don't always change Y to an I when you have ED, when you're adding ED to it, but we'll talk about that at another time about when you don't do it. So right now, just know if you need to add ED to a word and it ends with Y, you have to change the Y to an I before you add ED, and you only do this for ED words. If you're adding ING, you just leave the Y the same, and it would be drying. Okay, so because we don't want to change the Y to an I and have two I's next to each other, because that just looks silly. So that is the 3 rules that you will be seeing as you go through your workbook pages. We already know this part, so now you can focus on this part. Okay, we already know ED is the past, ING is now. Now you can focus on, what does the end of the word look like? Does it have a vowel and a consonant at the end? Does it have a silent E at the end? Does it have a Y at the end that I need to change? Okay, you have to look for those things before you write your answer. And what I would do is I would do just like I've done now and change the word before you add the ending, just to kind of help you remember what it's going to look like when you write the whole thing. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful for you, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments for me and I'll try to get back to you, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.